guys. It's my first time speaking today, so my voice is a little bit harsh still, but and also I'm in like this room that has terrible acoustics, but we're still gonna do this video because I need to get this out, and clearly the stars are aligning for me to give this message. I'm waiting for my student to log in. He's like playing this game that he plays every day where he like logs in and logs out and then pretends like his computer's not working. And I just let him because at the end of the day, I'm still getting paid. So you could do whatever you want to do. And that's just like my attitude about things lately. Like I am here obviously because I care and I want you to learn how to read. But if you don't want to learn how to read and you don't care, I'm not gonna force you. I'm not gonna take that responsibility onto myself. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna sit here and I'll wait for you to join. And if you don't want to, you want to play games, fine. It is what it is, right? So that's the attitude that I think a lot of my people, and when I say my people, people that are on the same frequency as me, people that are battling with the same things that I'm battling with. And that's why I made this channel. Like I was listening to one of my favorite tarot readers and she was talking about how she does like pick a card reading. So basically the pile that I chose was supposed to be like my personal reading, right? And a lot of the things that came up was how self-sacrificing I can be and how I've been groomed since I was young to be that way. And all of that is true. And she was just confirming a lot of things a lot of lessons that I already knew that I needed to learn and that I've been avoiding. And it's making me realize how all of it really ties in. We think that we are getting away, but we really aren't. Like the self-sacrificing thing, it doesn't only hurt me. And it's not only about my relationship with my mother, because that's where I learned that behavior. For her to feel better about the decisions that she made, having children when she didn't want them, being with the person that she was with when she didn't want to be with him, whatever decision she decided to make in her life, making it more bearable was putting me in a position to where I had to make her feel better. And she didn't realize she was doing any of this. Parents don't realize they're doing any of this. But I say all of that to say, not to bash my mother because I'm a grown adult and whatever happened back then happened back then. It's all a lesson. It's all a learning opportunity. But I say all of that to say that we need to be more mindful of how our crap affects other people, not only ourselves. That's the piece for parents. So please consider all of that before you have a child. And if you're considering having that A word, don't take anybody else's feelings into consideration when you're making that decision, because there's a reason why you even considered it in the first place. So honor that, sit down, really have a conversation with yourself, not anybody else, not even the baby's father, because he doesn't matter in that situation either. And I know people are going to be mad at me for saying that, but he doesn't matter when it comes down to you making a decision about your body and and whether or not you're going to raise a child. Because at the end of the day, when you have that baby and it's growing inside of you and you push it out, he can claim that he's going to be there all he wants. He can claim parental rights and whatever, but he can walk away at any point. It will be harder for you to walk away. Okay? So let's take all of that into consideration as well. Okay? With all these different things, it's like we need to realize the connectedness of things, how things are connected. Things are connected, and let me show you how. Okay, so because I was raised the way that I was raised, to be self-sacrificing, to put other people's needs before mine, because my mother was so emotionally needy because she wasn't giving those things to herself, I had to be the one to give it, right? And a lot of us women were raised that way. We're raised to be givers. And that's fine. That's our nature. That's what we're supposed to do. But there's also balance. You need to be able to give to yourself before you can give to other people. But we're naturally self-sacrificing. And so the way that that plays out when we become adults throughout our whole lifetime, the way it plays out is we get burnt out very easily in our jobs. These are like the red flags or the telltale signs that you are red flags, places to look, signs. Hello, hey, flashing lights that you need to focus more on yourself. You get burnt out at work. You are constantly depressed. You're always anxious. When that inside part of you starts screaming out to do something like travel or be creative or paint or whatever it is that you like to do when you were younger, and you feel that pushback and you're like, I don't know if I should do that. You judge it because you feel like anything that is not directly benefiting another person is not what I should be doing. Because why? Whoever raised you, whoever planted that seed of self-sacrifice taught you, if it doesn't benefit me, then don't do it. If it doesn't make me feel okay, if it doesn't make life easier for me, if it doesn't make me happy for the moment, don't do it. And so for me, what made my mother happy and proud of me was being a good student, keeping the house clean, making sure that I'm not making too much noise, making sure that, basically nothing that I did bothered her. Like I literally had to learn how to be invisible in a lot of senses, because she would just get so like angry out of nowhere because, again, of the decisions that she made in her life. But it always felt like it was me. Like I need to do something to, like, she's just always angry. I don't know what to do. I don't know when to hug her. I don't know when to say something nice. I don't know when to leave her alone. Like, that's how I grew up. And I think that's how a lot of us grew up. And so we take that into our adulthood and we think, okay, I'm an adult now. I don't have to deal with that anymore. No, it comes with us. So not only does it show up in our careers, we feel burnt out. We're choosing careers that don't serve us, that, we have to play that same role in. Because once you become comfortable with that was your childhood. You had no choice but to live in that position. So you become comfortable with it naturally. That's what our bodies do for survival. It makes a situation that is uncomfortable comfortable for us so that we can live, right? So we become an adult. We don't no longer have to do that because that parent isn't there anymore. That person that made us become this way is not there anymore. But that's now a part of our identity. That's now a part of who we think we are, right? So no, I love helping people, and I'm gonna keep helping people, and I'm gonna have all these kids, and I'm gonna give myself to them, and that's what a good mom does. That's what a good daughter does. That's what a good friend does. That's what a good person does, right? My student logged in, so let me pause this really quick, guys. Okay, so I just finished up with my student. Just a little side note. It's really interesting how. Give me a second. Let me make sure I have my notes about our session together. We can complete that. I can do that later. Okay, so it's really interesting how some students, because the next student that's about to log in a few minutes, he's the complete opposite. He's very respectful. He has just a totally different personality. He's open to learning, like he's just excited about everything, and he's just like, let's go, just very even-tempered. And then the other kid that I just left, very the opposite. So like it makes you wonder, like it makes you realize, not wonder, because obviously, the parents, whoever they're in the house with all the time, they're absorbing that energy from them. And so that also ties into how important it is to be mindful, especially when you are a parent, of what you have going on emotionally and energetically. pass that crap on to your kids. You don't. Because I think that my student that I just left, like, even though he has this different personality, he wants to learn. I think every kid does. He wants to learn. It's just that he thinks that it should be like a certain type of way, and it's not. And so, but then this kid that's about to log in, he knows already that things are just what they are. We just go with the flow. Like the session, whether I want to do it or not, it's not going to last forever. So let me just be immersive in the moment and just get what I can get from it and go on about my business in 15 minutes. Like, why the first student doesn't understand that when the second one does. It's really interesting. So like, these are the things that I think about. I know, like, it seems like, I said I don't care, whatever. I do, like, I obviously care very much about these kids, but also I understand that where to draw the line in caring. Like, I don't care so much that I'm gonna, like, go find them and find out why they're not coming to their sessions and whatever. No. Like, there's a reason why this student is the way that he is, and there's a reason why another student is the way that they are. And whatever I can bring to the table within all of that, I bring, and that's it. Then I go on about my business, just like they do. Right? So, and that just feels like a more healthier way to do things. I don't remember where we left off in the conversation before my student logged in, but I think that I got basically everything out. I think we were talking about how you can tell, like, how it shows up in your life when you are too self-sacrificing. So you're not going to be happy at your job. You're not going to be happy you're going to be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. That's when you also know that you're too self-sacrificing. Believe it or not, when you start serving yourself, like when I made the decision in 2019 to start traveling, I packed all my crap and sold everything and went to China, and I taught English for a little bit. That was the start of me taking control of my life and taking control of the things that I wanted and honoring my wanderlust spirit, because I am not somebody who likes to stay in one place. I like to be all over the place. So, but I was raised in a house that was very different from that. Like, my mom she's had the same number for years. I don't have the same number for more than 2 or 3 years. I always change my number. So, just being somebody that embraces change rather than somebody that shies away from it and is afraid of it. I didn't want to be that person, so I decided I'm going to start traveling. And then I think in 2020, I lived in like 3 different countries. Maybe it was 4, because I came back from China, then I went to Jamaica, then I went to Costa Rica, and then I was in the United States. So if you want to count where I grew up, it would be 4. So I just embraced it, and I was like, I'm going to travel. And now that I'm not doing that anymore, I'm starting to like get a little bit antsy. But I'm also starting to realize like other ways that I like to express myself. It's not just through travel. It's also through being creative. I used to write a lot, but I'm kind of feeling like the writing doesn't serve me anymore. Like, because when I used to write, it was like all kinds of sad stuff and whatever. And now, like, I don't want to write about sad stuff anymore. Like, there's not really anything sad going on in my life. Like, I think that I've created a space where I'm safe, I'm protected. I feel, at least when I'm alone, like now that I live alone and my relationship is officially over, I feel more connected to myself now than I ever did. And I always feel more connected to myself when I'm by myself. So that was another lesson to learn within that relationship. And that brings me to one of the key pieces. Our partners, our romantic partners that we choose, are directly connected to the things that we go through in our relationships. And I'm gonna use 2 examples, 2 of my relationships to kind of show the difference, to kind of show the stark like difference. When I was younger, I think I mentioned him before, but I met Sean. And Sean is one of the guys that kind of set the foundation for how how I would be treated in relationships. Like, he set the expectations, he did all the things. He was romantic, he was stable, he was all the things that he needed to be. We had a very beautiful relationship. But because I was young and because I was still stuck in that self-sacrificing cycle, I didn't want him. I pushed him away. And a lot of times we will identify this as women don't want the good guys, we want the bad guys. That's kind of also where that mentality comes from. But what it really is we don't want somebody who is like us. Because at the end of the day, Sean, now that I look at it from an older woman perspective, now that I look at it from a 33-year-old perspective rather than a 20-year-old perspective, I can see that Sean and I are very much the same. We're people who like to take care of others. We grew up in very much the same type of home environment where we had to be self-sacrificing in order to survive, in order to get our needs met. So coming into a relationship, those were the things I was feeling. And so while it was very good in some aspects, it also reminded me too much of home. In some kind of weird way, it reminded me too much of myself. Like, I wasn't really ready to face myself. I wasn't ready to be with myself, and so I couldn't be with him. And so we ended up parting ways due to things that I did to push him away. And now that I'm realizing that, it's like, we had a conversation recently, and it was like, I told him the reason why we didn't work and why I keep choosing all of these wrong men is because I didn't want him because he didn't need fixing, and everybody else needed fixing in my eyes. Like, he was too much like me. Like, he planned like a surprise birthday party where he invited all my family and they showed up or whatever, and like, he didn't have to do that. I've never had another man do that for me. I've never had another man surprise me on my birthday like that. He just like did things that were just so considerate in a relationship, and I've never had another man do any of that. I've had men treat me good, treat me well, whatever, be respectful, all that kind of stuff. But the type of deep connection that we had, he would like, this is kind of TMI, but he would sit like outside of the bathroom. He wouldn't sit in it with me. But when I was like on the toilet doing number 2, we would talk about like our day or about his day or whatever we were talking about. And he would sit like, I had the door open and I'd be on the toilet, and then he'd sit like outside on the wall, like in the hallway, and we would talk. Okay, so my next student is logging in. Let me pause the video again. So, yeah, I think we were talking about Sean. So that was a really beautiful relationship. It helped me a lot in a lot of different kind of ways. And now having it as a reference point or as a point to look back at and make connections is really helpful too. Obviously life happens, and that was 12, 13 years ago. So obviously things have happened. And it is what it is. So then comparing that to my most recent relationship, that was the opposite. He didn't do anything for me per se. He did a lot of things that he claimed were for me, but really weren't. And they didn't feel the same way that, like, for Sean, like, what's in it for him to take the time to not only plan a venue, call them, set up a time, surprise me for my birthday, and it wasn't even just the dinner. Like, he surprised me with a card, he surprised me with a lot of things that day. A sewing machine that I wanted, he bought me a sewing machine. So to take all the time to plan and shop and buy all these things and connect with all these people behind my back and, all these things to set up this one event, what was really in that for him if it wasn't like just to make me happy, just to make me feel special on my day? There's really nothing in that for him to gain. Like, yeah, he might have thought he was going to get sex later, but that's a given. Like, what was really in it for him to put that much effort and energy into making sure that I felt special on my birthday? Nothing really. This guy that I just was in a relationship with, he did nice things, but it was like always with an expectation attached to it. Like it always felt dirty. It always felt like you're just doing this because, not you're just doing this out of the kindness of your heart. It's a very different feeling. And so the reason why I would even get in a relationship, and this is a person that I wanted to be with. This is a person that I actually tried with, as opposed to with Sean. I was always finding reasons to leave that relationship. This one, I was always finding reasons to stay. Why? Because it felt familiar. It felt like my childhood. It didn't feel like me, which is why I eventually had to leave, because, getting to the point to where I feel comfortable with myself now, I could be with somebody like Sean. And that would be an ideal relationship. I would appreciate that relationship 10 times more. But, just like, and then, of course, nothing is perfect. So even though that relationship was what it was with Sean, it also had its negatives, because I don't want to say anything negative about him. So I think what I actually want to say is that relationship ended because it was supposed to. So I can't mourn it the way that I probably have in some certain, like I beat myself up, like I ruined a really good relationship. But I actually didn't, because the relationship that's for me is going to have all the things that Sean gave, but it's also going to have what was missing with Sean, which was that self-actualization, that being able to take care of self piece. With him, it was a lot of trauma bonding. It was a lot of we're similar, we take care of each other, but we didn't really know how to take care of ourselves yet. My relationship that's waiting for me, the one that I'm supposed to be in, the juicy one, the yummy one, is going to be all the things that I experienced with Sean, but also that piece of self-love, that piece of understanding how to take care of yourself. So when you're in a relationship with somebody else, it feels light, it feels free, it feels like there's room for all of the beautiful stuff, because I'm not always having to carry you. I'm not always having to make sure you're okay and do things to make you happy and whatever the case is, because you're already happy. So now anything that I do is extra. Now anything that I do is, I actually feel like, wow, this feels really good, because it's coming from an overflow place rather than I'm going to do all this because I secretly want you to do it for me kind of thing. It's like, and I guess maybe with Sean, even though I wasn't acknowledging that it felt yucky, like with the current relationship, that it felt like you're just doing this because, it probably was that. He probably was just doing it because it was my first time experiencing that to that capacity, because I had been with Antonio before that, and Antonio bought me whatever I wanted. He did whatever, he took me out, he bought me gifts for my birthday, he did all kinds of things. So it was always like that. Every guy was actually just doing because I'm finally going to have a relationship that when somebody does, or when I do, it's just because I have extra to give. And so here it is. And it's going to feel delicious, and I can't wait. Okay, just making sure that I'm where I need to be, because some of these kids, they don't even show up. It's almost like, I don't know why we don't want to give children choices. I think that if we did more often, it would cut out a lot of unnecessary issues, especially in the education system. For example, these schools that I have partnerships with, right? And I'm doing tutoring. The kids are forced to do tutoring. So that's why some of them don't care. Like this one, he never logs in. And the school is paying for him to do tutoring, and he's not logging in. It's ask the students, hey, there's this opportunity to become a better reader. Are you interested? And they can say yes or no. And then that way, when we are being paid to teach these students, we're being paid to teach students who actually want what it is that we're giving them. And then the argument can be made, oh, they're kids, they don't understand. They do. They do. They understand. Because they know how to do all the behaviors they're doing. They know how to not show up. They know how to, like this one, I'm not going to talk about them, but they know, okay? They know. So let's stop. Let's stop. They know. They know how to get out of what they don't want, so they know what they don't want. And if the argument can also be made that they're not going to be able to see long term how it affects them. When I was a kid, I could see how things affected me long term. So what's the excuse? There isn't one. Either we help them to understand, hey, the decision you make right now to not read impacts you when you get older, because you're not going to be able to. That's what somebody told me, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. Let me take this seriously. So if you tell a student that and they still don't care, then they don't care. It is what it is. Bye. Let's make room for somebody who does care. Let me tell you, there are a lot of English language learners on here, and when I tell you, when we do the initial assessment to see where they place in the program, these kids are out reading, and they can't even speak English. They can't understand half the directions that I'm giving them. I had to do a lot of movements and point to a lot of things and slow down my speech. But when they read, oh my goodness, they could read any word. Why is that? What is that? Let's think about it. Also, there's a student that I tutor privately, I tutor her privately. And I try to give her a lot of choices because she's very antsy. She's a genius, but her mom has this thing where you could tell she diminishes herself for her husband. So she tries to push that off on her daughter, and her daughter's not having it. She's not having it. She's just no. Eventually, unfortunately, that probably will get beat out of her. I hope that it doesn't, because she's going into kindergarten, so there's still that window for it to be beat out of her, but I really hope it doesn't. I really hope she keeps that rebellious spirit that she has. And I hope it doesn't impact her negatively, but unfortunately, the odds are stacked against her. But she's not having it. She's like, listen, I see what's going on here. I know I'm 5 years old, but girl, I see what's going on here. And it's so funny. So I try to give her choices to empower her. And her mom is like, oh no, I think we should just do this. And it's but if I'm giving her the choice, that means that it doesn't matter which order we do this in. I want her to feel, again, empowered. And you don't want her to feel empowered, clearly, because you don't feel empowered in your relationship with your husband. And you're not realizing that not only you're not serving yourself, you're not serving your daughter or your children or your son, who get to see you disempowered on a daily basis, and who also get to suffer being disempowered because you feel disempowered. So, yeah, I hope my clients will be watching this. I don't know how this went all over the place, but yeah. This is therapy for me, guys. I was listening, a lot of suggestions have been made to go back to therapy. I don't think that I need to go back to talking to somebody directly. I think that I do enough of that reflection on my own. I think that helping me doing these YouTube videos is really helping me. And yeah, I think we need to be more mindful of everything. Just be more mindful. Ask yourself the question, why is this happening? If it doesn't feel good, where did this come from? Why is this happening? Is this how I want this to be? Because if it's not how you want it to be, you can always change it. It's never too late. Whether you're 2, whether you're 5, whether you're 7, whether you're 10, whether you're 15, whether you're 55, whether you're 85, you can always change. You can always make the choice to transform your life into whatever you want it to be. Don't let other people's decisions cloud what you want. You didn't have a choice at one point, but now as an adult you do. And if you're a kid watching this, hopefully you're not a kid watching this, hopefully you are a kid watching this, because there might be a lot of things you don't understand, but there might be a lot of things that you do. So if you're a kid watching this, understand that this is the perfect opportunity to set the seeds, plant the seeds for how you want your life to be when you finally have control of it. Plant the seeds. For me, my face was always in a book. That was my escape, writing or reading. My face was always in a book, which is why I'm so passionate about writing and reading now. More so reading. I guess writing a little bit. I don't know what that blockage is. Let me find out that is like what my path, that's what like my purpose is supposed to be, and like the people against me have planted that disdain for writing. Wow. That self-sabotage, basically, because that's what it is. You could blame it on other people, but it's really self-sabotage because you allow what other people think and believe to impact your space, to impact how you think and believe. So at that point, it's you doing it to yourself. They can say whatever they want to say. That's on them. What you allow in and what you internalize is on you. So that's where the duality, that's where the reciprocal thing comes from. So they can, it was on them to say whatever they said, but what you decide to do with it is on you. So that self-sabotaging behavior, maybe that's why there's a blockage for me with the writing, and I'm like, I don't know if I would still need it or whatever. Maybe that is what I need to be leaning into. But I'm actually really passionate about the project that I'm in right now, developing this reading program. So, all we can do every day, guys, is try. Is try to make today better than yesterday. Is try to change our mind state. Try to get that 1% better. I think I heard that somewhere. 1% better at the end of the year. If you do 1% better every day, that's a little bit. 1% is nothing. 1% change, 1% different perspective every day. At the end of the year, you're at 365%. That's 3 times, more than 3 times, more than it would have been at 100. However that goes, however that math goes. Okay, guys? So, until our next therapy session, that's what we're going to start calling these. Until our next therapy session, be well.